Safaricom is the largest company in the East Africa region, is a leading telecom operator, the pioneer of M-Pesa, and we have always been known in this country as a company that is focused on changing people's lives. We have a very significant track record for being purpose-led. So climate and sustainability has always been part of our agenda. In fact, we always say we have to create shared value with our customers and our community, because if our customers and our community don't do well, then we don't do well. We don't grow in the future, and that's one of the reasons why we are very heavily involved in this forum.
There are lots of conversations about climate change and how to address climate change, how to mitigate its impact, how to adapt to irreversible dimensions of climate change, and how to finance these changes. Is Safaricom in any way involved or engaged in those conversations and specific commercial or business activities to address these issues?
So the way that we have always been involved from the beginning, when we were started, Safaricom began in the year 2000. We are just over 20 years old. Is always to focus on what works for society. In 2016, we adopted 9 of the 17 SDGs. So therefore, we always lead from a purpose perspective. And of course, climate, and in particular, having affordable, renewable energy, ensuring that we drive mitigation against our emissions. We are committed to be net zero by 2050. So we made very significant commitments. And actually, we publish a sustainability report every year that is audited by KPMG based on scientific methods that allow us to know whether we are hitting the targets that we have committed to. So we have a number of ways that we are doing it. The first is ensuring that our products and our services actually meet the needs of the population. Financial inclusion is a very big thing from M-Pesa. We have been involved in a lot of climate and sustainability agenda, especially on the renewable energy area. So on 3 areas. One is planting trees, which is basically mitigation. We have committed 5 million trees by 2025, and we'll commit a lot more. And this is about growing trees. The second is renewable energy. We have now converted a third of our sites from diesel backup, although we use grid, which is primarily renewable, but we use diesel as backup. We've now converted a third of our 6,000 sites into solar. And our commitment is to convert all of them in the next few years into renewable energy. And then the third one is working with government to enable us tools and digital tools that allow the Ministry of National Resources and especially the Forest Association to ensure that we can measure. So we have developed an app with the ministry. We are enabling companies that are involved in this area to work even further. And then on the third element linked to our business, which is about financing solar, we work with a company called Mkopa, which has actually put 1 million homes on solar. So it's not just about individuals and homes; it's also about our own businesses in terms of the way we operate. So we are involved in many ways, both in the way we design our products, the way we market those products, but also with the way we enable the value chain to work in a way that's sustainable.
That's fantastic. I wasn't aware of some of the details you've given us about what Safaricom is doing.
Yeah.
Final question, the role of the private sector collectively. People can be cynical about the private sector and its purposes. What do you see as the role of the private sector in addressing what the globe is facing, what Africa is facing? We see rising sea levels, we see drought, we see hotter temperatures, et cetera, creating food insecurity, creating displacement. What is the role you see for the private sector in addressing the impacts of climate change and finding adaptation methods for people to transform their lives in order to live in the current environment that we have?
So of course, private sector plays a very important role. There is no one, not the government, not private sector, not development agency that can solve the issues that face us from a climate perspective. So it is a recognition that there's no one party. So the power of partnership is very important. It came through in COP27 very, very significantly. As you know, as part of the Global Compact, we formed the Africa Business Coalition, which is basically bringing the key private sector from across Africa and allowing them to really champion the big agenda that Africa private sector should be playing. But secondly, also ensuring that we champion action-based focus. And we are going to be talking about the progress that we have made. So it's about partnership. It is about coming together and being very clear what is truly African in terms of solution. I'll give you an example. In this country, in Kenya, when we had the big drought, I chaired the drought committee, which I was asked by the government to chair private sector led to support the government initiatives that was going to allow us to think both not just the emergency element, but more the medium term to the long term effects of the drought that we are facing and how we can actually drive more adaptation methods, especially on the water side. So private sector can play a very big role. This morning, we had a breakfast session that was orchestrated to really bring together and say, what are the areas that we can do together? One of the biggest areas is financing. Safaricom has just announced 15 billion Kenya shillings as ESG financing with a syndicate of 4 banks, which are showing partnership between a private organization with a set of banks on an ESG finance that will allow us to start thinking about technology, systems and services that really allow the business to focus on it. And the reason why that is important for Safaricom, we impact indirectly 1 million people because of our value chain agents, the supply chain, and so on and so forth. So if we fund our ecosystem, we impact very many micro and small and medium-sized businesses, and therefore really raise the floor in terms of what we can do. So the private sector has a very, very big role.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndegwa, for the interview.
Thank you.
Your responses were great.
Thank you.
I have a final thought or question, which is not for broadcast.
Okay.
What you said is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel that people don't know. They've not heard the message. They're not conscious of what we're doing. So how are you communicating that, and how can more people know about what we're doing?
So one of the reasons why we set up the Africa Business Coalition last year in COP27 is to be the voice, to start to showcase what the private sector, if it is united, can do. So there's no question that there's a lot that's been done. One of the ways that we actually disseminate this information is through the sustainability report that we do every year. So we invite a lot of stakeholders. We usually have a leadership series that is orchestrated by Safaricom. But we can do a lot more. This is why conferences like the ACS, the Africa Climate Summit, is so important, and actually leading up to the next COP, which is in the Gulf.
Yes.
So I think you're right that there's a lot more that we can actually do in terms of showcasing. We have 2 foundations, Safaricom and M-Pesa Foundation. Okay. They play a very big role in terms of being the instrument that allows community to connect. And then through the government, the digitization work we are doing in the government, we are always bringing climate overlay in ensuring that anything we do is sustainable.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yvonne.
for your time.
Thank you very much.
Were spot on. Thank you.